Good afternoon. Thank you all for being here, and who's watching on YouTube as well, watching us. I think network effects is like the holy grail for founders, right? This is what VCs want to see. This is where founders want to be. But it's really hard to get there. NFX, which is a VC firm from the Valley, they have numbers that say that 70% of the market cap from tech companies since 1994 in the past 30 years was created by network effects, but only 20% of startups have network effects. I think what the audience wants to hear from both of you is the recipe, right? What's the recipe for building this? Where do you have to start?
Go ahead.
The recipe is luck and money. You need, especially, I think the largest opportunity in Latin America, because you don't have a lot of competition and you have these massive industries that are largely offline. If you are able to create a model where you have network effects, meaning that you can grow and transform the entire industry and move it online, and then you are lucky enough to be able to get investors that are willing to invest and then finance. Basically, what network effect says is like, we want market domination today and then profits tomorrow. And for that, in our case, we spent more than $200 million investing to move the entire trucking market online. Today, we have 80% of all the trucks in Brazil active in the platform, moving freight. The big trucks that you see on the road, 80% of those trucks are getting the freight in our platform. But to get there, we needed investors that were willing to take the risk of spending $200 million and then moving the market online. And then we can start, collecting some of the value that we add to those truckers.
Yeah. Well, I would say there are 3 components in my formula. It doesn't mean it works, but at least it's there.
Write it down. Write it down.
So the first one is be intellectually savvy. Like, you need to know what does it mean for you. What does it mean ecosystem? What you are looking for? What you are trying to solve? What you are aiming when you are combining 2 assets to try to leverage something else that doesn't exist when you don't have them together. So if you don't have this concept in your mind, clear for your business model, you don't know what you're looking for. The second thing is stop to lie. Every time that you lie about, I have an ecosystem, you start to believe in your lie. And as a consequence, you stop to question yourself on what I really need to do right now, today. Mm-hmm. And the third thing for me is having the proven points before you accelerate towards the ecosystem. So let me give you an example. I make restaurant sales, right? I have access to the restaurants to provide credit. But Itaú, Bradesco, Santander, all of them do the same, right? So what I have to do is to find something different. So in our case, for example, we have an algorithm that understands the operational performance, not financial, operational performance of the restaurant that allows me to understand how I can provide credit. Who are the best ones? So how do I define the ones that get the credit? The ones that don't churn from the platform. If they churn, I become a regular bank for them. So what I have to predict here is the churn. Okay. This is ecosystem. I only can work with churn prediction because I have the restaurant on the other side and I have sales touching these 2 things. What is the consequence today? My credit portfolio has a term, an average term of 18 months. There's no other bank in Brazil that provides SMB loans to restaurants with 18 months average term. So that, for me, is what you have to look for, these proven points that then allow you to accelerate.
When did you notice, or how you do not fool yourself? I mean, or you don't lie to yourself that say, oh, I think I have, now we have network effects. How do you see that you're really getting there? Or how do you not fool yourself that, oh, this is it, but it's actually not?
But so here I think, and to Diego's point, for example, we started the fintech too. I think the evolution of all the marketplaces that have really network effects is to become a fintech. Because then, the banks have a lot of information, but you have more than information. You have the entire transaction, you have the life of the users inside the platform, and they need you to live in a way. So, there are other examples of large marketplaces that have network effects, and then they create a fintech, and they grow like really fast. And you have network effects. There is a certain point in time where there is a tipping point where you start growing very fast. So in our case, last quarter, we grew 44% in one quarter. So, and we are not investing more. We are investing actually less amount of money in marketing and sales. And that happens because of the network effect. So it's like you're going to have to spend a lot of money to move the market online. And at some point, it's going to start accelerating on its own. And then you stop spending money, and you just see that the network keeps growing very fast. And then on the top of that network, you can build different products. And the main one is fintech.
Yeah. So did you see that he's lying to us? He said the concept was luck and money.
And now,
he's growing, investing less. So he didn't tell the formula to us.
To get there, we needed the money.
to get to spend more money, you need to spend money, right?
So in our case, what I would say to complement Federico is, in Brazil, we don't have the culture of working with statistics. And the best way to not fool yourself in this discussion is working hard, deeply with statistics. Why? Because statistics, it's what teaches you if you're doing the right comparison. So the most common thing that I see in startup speech is seeing a comparison, and then I make 2 questions, and you see that comparison doesn't work at scale. It works for you in an A/B test, it doesn't work at scale. So, I mean, I know it's too operational, but why this is so important to say? Because it's not the Brazilian culture working with statistics. We need to get used of it. You know, we need to really learn and put that in a Brazilian culture.
You can build what you can't measure, right? That's the point.
Measure in the right way.
You cannot build what you can. I mean, when you have so much scale, if you don't look at, the statistics, and those statistics are like, you will see the lifetime value divided by cost of acquisition should improve. If you don't look at those statistics when you have a lot of scale, it's like, any mistake you make, you could lose a lot of money.
And when you get to network effects, I mean, you are dominant in your area. So you attract attention from regulators, from your network, and even some backlash from your network. How do you deal with that? I think Diego is in a better position to talk about that.
Yeah, well, first of all, I don't agree with the dominant word. Anyhow, I think that the best way to prove that you are taking the right advantage of the network effect through results. So what I'm trying to say is that the ecosystem only works if everybody wins. If it doesn't happen, it's not an ecosystem. People will start to die and the ecosystem goes down, right? So in my case, for example, the average sales per restaurant increases 6 years in a row. The average sales earnings actually per driver increases 6 years in a row. So what I'm trying to say in the end is I'm generating value, and on average, everybody's been able to sell more and more, which means that the value creation into the ecosystem, it's been split among everybody that participates on it.
Do you have that? Any?
No, I think what we try to show, and I agree with Diego, we moved the offline market online, but truckers still can get freight in the offline market, so it's not like, there are other options, competition exists. You want to be better by providing a better product. So 99% of my time, I'm at the office looking at the product and working with the product guys and tech guys, always trying to provide the best products with the same objective, which is I want the trucker that operates in the platform to make more money because they are going back, they go to Sao Paulo, Rio, and they go back and forth with freight, so they make more money at the end of the month. We try to show that to everyone, that these guys are making more money. And the owner of the freight that is sending food to the supermarket, these guys are companies. We want them to spend less amount of money on trucking because they are utilizing the excess capacity of the trucks. So they're going to put food in the supermarkets cheaper. And it's going to be good for the population if we have enough scale. So as long as you show that you are adding value to the society and your users, I think it's easy to deal with the regulators. Yeah.
And how do you see building a network effect now in this scenario of tariffs and less global trade being attacked and with tariffs, with scores? how do you see that? How do you build network? Because network effects is like building for the world, like Meta, Mario was just here, and how do you apply this now, in the moment like now?
Well, I would say there are one good thing and one bad thing. The bad thing is, because the world now is split, actually competition will be much more concentrated, right? So before you had the chance to go to 200 places, now you can go maybe to 100 places. Therefore, there's concentration in some markets of competition. So it's bad in the sense that the irrationality, it comes again. Okay, if someone is rational, you play the same rational game, and then everything goes back to the normality. You saw that in your career writing about this sector. The other thing is, and that's actually what is written here, like, this is my territory, not theirs, which means that if the world is splitted, you need to understand better and better what you can do, where you have one leverage that nobody from outside has, which is local knowledge. And I truly believe that business such as Federico's one and iFood are the ones that can take advantage of this, because we know how to operate on ground. Even though we are online, we have to operate on ground, and this changes everything.
Yeah, and maybe I think it's useful for all the entrepreneurs here. Like, I'm from Argentina, so I used to live in London, and then I came to Brazil, and everyone was like, why do you come from London to Brazil? It's so bureaucratic, it's so tough to start a company. And then I remember, I heard, and this has, China is going to come more and more to Brazil, it's going to become closer to Brazil. But I remember, I heard Jack Ma telling his employees, there is a video where he says, look, eBay, with all their money, are coming to China, and they're going to compete, and they have more money than us. At the time, they were tiny. And then he goes like, we are a crocodile in the Yangtze River, and eBay is a shark in the ocean. So if we stay in the Yangtze River and we fight in the Yangtze River, we are going to win, A. And B, because China is so large, we are going to build a monster that then we can go and fight in any ocean. And then when you look at Brazil, I think the bureaucracy and complexity of Brazil is your best friend if you learn how to navigate that bureaucracy. And I'll give you a real-life example that it was in our case. Our Chinese equivalents, with all that money they had, they came to compete with us in 2018. But they didn't understand the culture, as well as, I studied things when I came here, and I learned the markets. So building the company from scratch, from the ground up, and studying the markets, and the culture, and the complexity, and the bureaucracy, it was like, the more complex that the Brazilian economy becomes, is the better for us, because the Chinese equivalent couldn't compete, and they left, and then we won.
And that's an interesting point, because the world is so crazy right now that some stuff that used to be custo Brasil is now what protects us, right? Like, you think bureaucracy can be a good thing? Is that it?
I think if you can get enough, because in Brazil there is not enough money, right, to build, like, we raised $400 million. I never imagined I was going to raise $400 million at the time when I started the company. But if you are able to raise the money, and that means raising the money in the US or China, in our case it was China and the US both, and then you bring it to Brazil, and then you apply it to a very large industry that is massively fragmented, that no one is looking at, like ours, very unsexy. And then you are able to digitalize that industry and build strong network effects, then you can be the next, multi-billion-dollar business. So that's what I say, it's a lot of luck, because it's tough to raise money.
But in the end, it is about the money.
It is about the money.
It is about the money.
Yeah, and people.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're heading to our ending here. But I mean, you two have really different positions, I mean, different sectors, of course. But you started all offline, and they're going online. And iFood is doing exactly the opposite. Started online, and now is trying to replicate the recipe offline.
Yeah.
Is it possible? The things that work online work offline. How do you see that?
Well, the question is if you have a culture of innovation, and therefore you are able to perform tests that give you the confidence to believe it's possible. So in our case, the main point was is we learn how to generate traffic online. We increase sales of restaurants. And the question for us is, like the total addressable market in the offline is much bigger than online. So should I go there? Yes. How do I go there? We tested for 5 years. Last year, we found a way. We found a way of generate traffic to the offline space using the intelligence of the online world. And that's why we have a fintech. That's what connects here. The fintech is what allows this happen. So it is possible. But the point is not because a PPT told me. I mean, it's not about the PowerPoint. It's about the like 100 tests.
Was it AI that told you that?
No, it's about the 100 tests I did. I failed in 99. I learned a lot, and one worked, and now it's what we're doing. We're scaling like hell now.
You know, in my case was more organic. We didn't plan that much. I was traveling by bicycle. I learned the trucking market by stopping at truck stops and talking to truckers. And then I wanted to make some money. So I start like, you know, at truck stops, if you get a relationship with, say, you know, a company that has freights, they will ask you, find me a truck. So I was finding trucks for these companies at truck stops. And then we start getting large, and we needed to handle you know, I wanted to have more trucks than the population of that specific truck stop. And I wanted to expand to the entire of Brazil. So we went organically from offline to online because there was a need to, you know, I was like, okay, I have freight, but I want to have freight in the entire of Brazil. And I also want to hunt for trucks, not at this truck stop, but everywhere from here. And then all the trucks were like, look, we are like going like to one city, and then we need to wait for a week to come back with freight. And maybe, you know, we don't know if we are going to get the freight. So it was a necessity to fix a problem that I had that existed. That was like, you know, I need more trucks because I sent in a trucker to the Northeast and I want to bring that truck with freight. So the solution was, let's build an app and let's ask the owner of the freight to post freight into the app, and then let's ask the trucker to download the app and use it as Uber. So that's why we built the Uber for trucks. And then that was like, we start connecting everyone there, more than 100,000 truckers. And then on the top of that, we built an anti-fraud system because everyone was stealing the freight. So it was like another problem we had to solve. And then the truck breaks down and they don't have money to fix a truck. So providing credits to the truckers was also a need within the marketplace. And that's why we continue building up towards the online markets.
But we're out of time, actually. But one quick question. Can you build network effects thinking, or when you want to build network effects, or is it something that it's the product? It happens. Or can you be intentional? Say, I want to build network effect, or your product has to be so good that it creates network effects on its own.
So let me say how we think at iFood. We believe on having a vision. We believe on the power of believing that you can reach something. We believe that if you mobilize people, you're going to be able to find routes. It's going to be hard. It's going to be tough. But if you have the entrepreneurship, the founder mode, the entrepreneurship mindset, you're going to be able to reach that. I don't know if it's going to take 1 year or 100 years. That's another question. But I truly believe you can do it.
Yeah, and to add to that, especially when you look at emerging markets, large emerging markets, because you need to have 3 conditions. One is you need to have a very large domestic market. Mm-hmm. You need to build your own monster, then you can go and fight in the ocean. So you need to build something large. So you need a large domestic market to start. And then you need massive fragmentation from both sides of the equation, so that technology, you know, is going to fix that fragmentation, that mess that exists. Your product is going to add the more fragmentation and mess you have in the market, the more value the technology is going to add. And then you need a business model that is able to scale really fast. And with that, I mean, if you have working capital, for example, it's going to be tough because, you know, if in order to grow, I have to finance the working capital of the industries, forget it. No one is going to have that much money. If you have people involved in every transaction, you are never going to scale. So you need these, you know, business models that are able to scale very fast. And adding to what Diego said, because that is also very important. Everyone tries, most people fail.
Good. And we are nobody's backyard, right, Diego?
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you so much, guys.
Actually, we don't have sharks. We have our anacondas, and that's how we do it here, right?
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.